Have you ever wondered what's made Halloween costumes and Halloween itself change so much over time? When you think about classic Halloween costumes, what comes to mind? A ghost, a vampire, maybe a witch if you're feeling adventurous. You know, spooky costumes. Now, think about some popular Halloween costumes today. It's often less generic and more commercial costumes, but it's a lot of movie characters or video game characters or funny whatever. The culture of Halloween has changed over time, and that evolution has everything to do with the evolution of Halloween itself. But what is Halloween really? Unlike other major holidays like Christmas, Easter, 4th of July, couldn't think of a holiday for a second. Unlike other major holidays where people tend to know what they're celebrating, a lot of people just refer to Halloween as spooky season because they don't really know the core of what they're celebrating. It's just Halloween. But Halloween celebrations actually stem from creepy traditions combined with vandalism like 100 years ago, which has birthed Halloween as we know it today, and can explain why Halloween costumes went from this to this. Come along with me as we discover the origin of Halloween and Halloween costumes. Speaking of Halloween costumes, I'd like to address why I'm wearing a Kmart shirt. If you didn't notice, it's actually part of my Halloween costume, but I'm not fully dressed for Halloween. Hold on, I need to complete my costume. I don't think I'm gonna wear this for the whole video. The origins of Halloween, aka it's about to be fall, y'all. Halloween's origins, many historians believe, stemmed from a variety of sources, but not every single historian is convinced on all of the sources, but what I'm presenting to you seems to be the most agreed upon consensus. Many historians believe modern Halloween began from an ancient pagan festival named Samhain. I think I'm saying that right. Which was celebrated to split the lighter summer half of the year with the darker winter part of the year, between the sunset of October 31st into the sunset of November 1st. During that time, people thought the veil between the other world and our world was the thinnest, meaning that spirits could pass between their world and our world. And when I say spirits, I just want to clarify, I do not mean alcoholic spirits, I mean spirits. You know, for the one person out there who maybe thought that booze was going in between realms. And these spirits, you know, many of them were thought to be harmful, like demons. So people came up with an idea to dress up as like dead people. They apparently thought that if they blended in with the spirits, that the evil spirits would leave them alone and they could avoid confrontation. Which, you know, I'm sure that an evil spirit really could not tell the difference between Fred over there and their own. There was a lot of mask wearing, and while people felt anonymous, they played a lot of pranks. That is generally considered to be the origins of Halloween, which is what set the groundwork for mass vandalism 2,000 years later. The Catholic Church, as you may know from a history class or two, was not the biggest fan of pagan holidays back in the day. Their influence spread into the Celtic region in the 7th century, and they wanted to take Samhain and give it a Christian rebrand, like they were doing with a lot of other pagan holidays. Their goal wasn't to eliminate the holiday, but to shift the focus to Catholicism. The Catholic Church rebranded Samhain to All Saints' Day. They celebrated the saints November 1st. The new holiday was called Hallowmas, or All Hallows, because hallow means holy. Hence, Halloween, the eve of the Hallow. A holiday called All Souls' Day was added on November 2nd in the 11th century, which led to souling. Poor people would go souling, where they'd go to rich people's houses and offer to pray for their relatives in exchange for soul cakes. But they'd often dress up and wear costumes when they were doing it. And these costumes often represented the departed. And eventually, children got in on the souling thing. In Scotland and Ireland, souling evolved into a secular version, and starting in the 15th century in Ireland and England, mumming emerged, which was like people would dress up in costumes and dance. So we can kind of see the origins of trick-or-treating. But you have to ask yourself, where did the trick part of trick-or-treating come in? Well, let me tell you. Mass vandalism. Halloween tradition travels across the ocean, aka Spirit Halloween would have never happened without potato fungus. Ancient Halloween traditions might have their root in Europe, but modern Halloween was born in the United States of America. Colonists and early Americans often did not dress up to celebrate everything dark and scary. When you think of early colonists and dark and scary, you think of the Salem witch trials. So, not exactly the vibe. There were some early Halloween-esque celebrations like harvest parties where people told ghost stories, but it wasn't really like our Halloween. Halloween as we know it today really gained popularity in the early 1900s because of pranks and corporations wanting to sell stuff, but that's getting ahead. Not like an actual head. I mean, I have to clarify because this is a Halloween video. What really sparked the origin of modern Halloween was the Irish potato famine. The Irish potato famine was a truly terrible event in history, taking place between 1845 and 1852, when a fungus in Ireland's largely potato-dependent society made the potatoes inedible. Millions of people starved to death or moved away. Scotland saw their own potato famine too. Many people from Ireland and Scotland emigrated around the world, in particular to the United States of America, and they brought their traditions with them. And a lot of these immigrants moved to rural parts of the United States of America. Modern Halloween evolved in the middle of nowhere America in the 1800s, turning into the version of Halloween that we know today. And yes, there were pranks. Pranks went too far, aka, what were the children doing? Early American Halloween centered around a time when people acted outside of social norms. It revolved around superstitions and dark things like ghosts and demons. In rural America in the 1800s, people are said to have felt that the holiday centered around death. People wore scary costumes that were usually homemade that often covered their face. Being anonymous was a big part of Halloween costumes, as per prior traditions. In the early 20th century, Halloween was a holiday specifically designated for spooky themes. Then there were the pranks. It was a tradition carried across the ocean into the United States of America, and in America, pranks evolved. A lot. Some of the pranks were innocent, but other pranks were not. Common rural American innocent 1800s pranks included uprooting plants in people's gardens, putting wagons and livestock on barn roofs, and tipping over outhouses, sometimes with people still inside of them. And let me be honest for a second. If I was in an outhouse and somebody tipped me over, it would not be so funny when I got out of there. Let me tell you that right now. But over time, the severity of some of these pranks grew more extreme. Some people took hinges off barn doors, letting all of a farmer's livestock run free. When cars came into the picture, some pranksters made fake detour signs, sending motorists on fruitless, confusing detours that ultimately led nowhere, which that is kind of funny. As industrialization took root and people moved from more rural America into cities in the later part of the 1800s, they brought Halloween and prank culture with them, which is really when some things started to go too far. And some of these more urban pranks were just straight up vandalism, including switching business and street signs, slashing tires, and removing people's front gates from their houses. With a lot of these pranks, a lot of kids would threaten to trick people unless they gave them something. You know, extortion. And as time went on, some of these pranks just became more malicious, like committing theft and calling it a prank, breaking windows, and setting buildings on fire. It's said that the Great Depression, which started in 1929, really caused an uptick in dangerous pranks. 1933 was a turning point. 1933's Halloween was called Black Halloween because the pranks were just that bad nationwide. A lot of the public felt like these pranks crossed the line. It said that a lot of cities around the United States wanted to ban Halloween altogether, but others had an idea on how to rebrand the holiday, which gave birth to the version of Halloween that we know today. Halloween gets a rebrand, aka I'm glad those 1930 whippersnappers were so bad because we got Halloween out of it. If you're a big fan of walk-through haunted houses, you can thank the Halloween rebrand of 1933 for it. Or if you like eating copious amounts of candy at Halloween, you can also thank the rebrand for it, which honestly, you can eat copious amounts of candy whenever you want, any time of the year, but if you like doing it specifically at Halloween, thank the rebrand. So after the Halloween of 1933, a lot of cities and communities decided to hold events for kids to keep them out of trouble, except these events had to be cheap because They were in the middle of the Great Depression and nobody really had any money, which helped form the Halloween that we know today. I mean, think about it. Traditional Halloween activities are just super cheap activities, like bobbing for apples, children's costume parades, trick-or-treating that did not involve actual extortion, walking through a haunted house that somebody in your community made, or Six Flags, whatever you want to do. Trick-or-treating grew in popularity across the nation, only to be driven into a hiatus when World War II happened because sugar rations. But after World War II, trick-or-treating came back in full force. So here's the question that we have to ask ourselves. Did the Halloween rebrand really prevent kids from committing dangerous pranks? The answer is no. They just started doing it on October 30th instead of October 31st. Prank culture largely died out during the 1980s in the United States of America. But here's a big question. How did Halloween costumes change from like spooky things to Elsa? The commercialization of Halloween costumes. AKA, corporations will do what corporations do. In the 1930s, there was a big shift away from scary Halloween costumes and towards costumes that appealed to children. Because a lot of Halloween started being centered around children. Big retailers like Sears started selling costumes for kids, but a lot of people made their own Halloween costumes until about the 1950s, which is really when Halloween costumes began to get mass produced, and thus cheaper to afford. As time passed, a lot of retailers started leaning into Halloween because it was located during a very dead retail time of year, in between the end of summer and Christmas time. And with this shift, with the commercialization of Halloween costumes, as opposed to the homemade variety, even more children shifted away from dressing up like generic scary things and towards commercialized, child-friendly characters like Mickey Mouse. Businesses essentially helped promote the idea of Halloween to the public, and the entire thing just kind of snowballed over the years. Halloween has grown in popularity, especially since the 1970s. In the 1960s through the 1980s, adults really started dressing up for Halloween again. It wasn't just seen as a children's holiday anymore. And with a mismatch of traditions kind of combining into modern Halloween, Halloween has kind of become an excuse to wear whatever. Often whatever is commercialized. And modern Halloween has been pushed out around the world due to American cultural influence, but that level of influence greatly varies by country. A lot of people love watching violent, scary movies around Halloween or going through violent, scary haunted houses. But here's an interesting question. Why do people like watching violence? Why is it entertainment when it's fake? If you want to know why people like watching violence, please click on this video next. And thank you so much for watching.